Hey everybody, this is chapter 7 of Why Me. Um, I'm still childish, but maturing enough to soon be at that higher level of immaturity that I've reached at this point. Of course, I'm still growing. I've survived the fifth grade. I think I said I'm starting to want to wear my hair my way and dress the way I want, which back in those days was bell-bottom jeans and t-shirts that were tie-dyed and things like that. But ain't no way in hell I was going to be allowed to do that with my parents. Um, they were of the old school, and there was a lot of clashes, not just with me against my parents, but all over the United States. I think children started getting more leverage on the parents, and things were coming out about how you're not allowed to punish anymore. No physical punishment was allowed, and nowadays, of course, you can't even scold your child because it's going to mentally, handicap them. And well, the fact is we're just all turning into a bunch of pussies. So, but along there somewhere, I lost that green tooth. I can't tell you exactly when, but here's the story how it went. I was actually, I don't know if I told you guys this, but I have a brother and a sister. My brother's 2 years older than me, and he hates my guts. He can't stand me around him unless he wants something, which I would do things for him because I knew how to make things and stuff like that. So, he liked me for that reason. Um, and but when he was around his friends, he was very standoffish. My sister, she was 3 years younger, more or less a tomboy. She didn't really want to mess with the dials and stuff. But in reality, she didn't want to mess with anything. She was just lazy. Steve was lazy, but I think she, you know, really outdid him. So anyway, one day, Steve's gonna ride his bike over to his friend's house, which was over 2 miles away. Um, Maybe even 3 miles, and I was allowed to go along. Of course, he hated that. And in fact, he wouldn't even wait for me when we were riding our bikes. He'd just go on ahead. So I rode my old piece of junk bike over there because our first bikes always had to be used ones because we were just learning, so we were going to beat them up. And of course, they were ugly bikes because they were 26-inch, and everybody else had those spider bikes or whatever they called them with the banana seats and shifter between their legs and all that crap. And of course, my parents weren't going to have that. No damn bell bottoms in our house. Fuck that shit. So I go over there with him, but he ain't gonna let me play with them. It's only his one friend, and they're throwing the frisbee. But I'm not allowed to be in on it, so I sit there on the bank and I watch them. And Steve missed one and went over top his head. So I ran to get it. Now I wasn't gonna keep it. I just was gonna give it to him. But he couldn't have that. And of course, he thought I'd probably take it or do something. Probably he figured I'd do something like he would do. And anyway, as he tackled me, he ended up, his ass landed right on my face. And when he did that, it pushed that tooth in. Now, I didn't tell you this, but this tooth was like the last one to ever come out of my mouth. And when the new tooth started coming in, it came in from the back. So I had to So here, even though I wanted to get rid of this tooth, it's going to stay in my mouth because the other one's growing in from behind. I mean, this thing was going to hang around for forever if it had its way. But when he sat on my face, it pushed that tooth back into the other tooth and almost popped it out. It was hanging there, and I was so happy because at first I was going to do the normal thing. I was going to tell my mother, but I didn't. I got on my bike and I rode home all happy and told him that he wasn't in any trouble because I wanted to get rid of this damn thing anyway. So it's still hanging there though, and I get home and after a while my mother keeps saying, you can pull it out, you can pull it out. I'm afraid to, So finally in the middle, when I'm going to bed, at that point I have a string tied to it. If all I had to do is grab it, but I wouldn't do it because I was afraid it was going to hurt. But I kept messing with it, and my father convinces me to spray Chloraseptic on it. Says that'll numb it, and that's what I did. And then I pulled the damn thing out. So finally it was out of my head. But then my other tooth was, of course, growing in correct. But I didn't have, but my uncle just told me he's a dentist, if I didn't tell you earlier. And he gave me, he says, a tongue depressor or even a popsicle stick and pry on it. He says, and it'll push it, it'll come back to where it's supposed to. And so without braces or anything, I was able to straighten it out, and it's good enough anyway. Nobody laughs at me for my teeth, although I did try to convince a couple women one night that I was a vampire and that my canines were filed down because they were too long. They said they believed it. I don't know. So now I'm in middle school, 6th grade. Everybody else has got fancy clothes. I'm wearing shit. In fact, I don't know if I told you this, but I had my closet had 3 sections to it. Sliding doors, each one's like 3 foot long. In the one section I had my school clothes, 3 pair of pants, 3 or 4 shirts, and that's it. I don't know why they built these big closets. In the center was all my work clothes and that was it. Just a couple pair of jeans and some t-shirts, and that was it. And then to the last one was my good clothes. 1 pair of pants, 2 shirts, a jacket, maybe 1 or 2 ties. And that was it. The clip-on ties, I couldn't handle anything else than that. And school, I started expanding my interests besides women. Of course, I never had one in all of middle school. I did have one say she was interested in me for a while, but I didn't pick up on it, and so she moved on to the next one. But I got into art, made a couple posters up and did some things, and there was a real nice place in the back of the art room where all the loose women were willing to let you cop a feel, so I had to be back there some too. So, let's see, besides the fact that I had no talent as far as sports goes, I could do things properly, but in other words, like throwing a discus, I could do it right, but I couldn't get any distance and wasn't any good at anything else. Running, I started thinking maybe I could do that. Um, I was terrible at spelling. My mother um, actually tried to help me out. She knew my teacher in the 7th grade, and they fixed me up with a tape recorder and stuff like that for me to practice. I got straight A's the whole year. And then, when the year was over, I forgot everything. And I mean it literally. It just, I can't, I cannot spell. I cannot remember people's names, and I cannot spell. It's terrible. In fact, I'll share this one with you if I haven't already said it before. How can you live at the same place your whole life and yet go to a different school every year? Go to a new school every year. Be me. Every year when I went to school, I swore nobody remembered me. And so I started all over as if nobody there knew my name. And I, of course, couldn't remember theirs. And so I was afraid to say hello to anybody, even if I thought I knew it, because I was always wrong. So, yeah, it's one of them things. What do they say? I'm a loser, baby. So why don't you just kill me? Until next time, see you.